So hello, let us continue our discussion regarding the difference between organic and inorganic compounds. In my earlier lecture, I have discussed a lot about the historical aspects of organic molecules, and we also have discussed regarding the evolution of organic chemistry as well as the importance of organic molecules. We also have learned about the various characteristics of organic molecules. So anyone if having any sort of queries or a problem in my earlier content which I have delivered, you can please without any hesitation mail back your content. Just mail me the problem whatever you are facing, the delivered content 24 into 7, so that I can ultimately tackle with your all your queries. And whatever the problem you are having, you are all over free to get it be get resolved. So let us continue our discussion, and in continuation with the topic, that is the organic compounds and the classification. Uh, we will here further discuss here the difference in the organic as well as the inorganic compounds. So as you can see here in this particular PowerPoint presentation, uh, the difference between organic and inorganic compounds are tabulated, and you can see here the various feature I have mentioned, and then each and every feature is further be explored, whether it is a important one or it is ultimately presence or absence in the organic molecule or in inorganic molecule. And as you can see here, I have also mentioned that whatever the feature by certain keys, that is the plus and minus, and this symbolization ultimately or this represents the presence as well as the absence of each and every feature wherever it is applicable. So the plus sign itself represents the presence of that particular feature in this in the molecule, and the negative sign is indicates the absence of that particular feature in the another molecule or the next molecule. So we will turn by turn or one by one we will ultimately look into each and every aspect which help us to discriminate or differentiate the organic as well as the inorganic compounds among. So the very first one or the very first characteristic which we have, which I have mentioned here under the feature, is the carbon. So the carbon is one of the most important characteristic to discriminate an organic compound from an inorganic compound. And earlier also I do have mentioned that organic compounds do contains the carbon uh, as a main feature in its uh, or carbon as a main composition in its skeleton structure, or the carbon is ultimately responsible for the basic structural platform of the organic compounds. However, in inorganic compounds, as you can see here, I have depicted is by negative. They do lack the carbon in the composition or in their structure. Now, the second thing I have mentioned here, the volatility or the volatile characteristic or the volatile nature. So generally, the organic compounds are usually volatile in nature, no doubt, and inorganic compounds are in a general sense, are the non-volatile. So as you can see here, I have also mentioned a star under the feature that is the volatile. There are certain exceptions are there where the inorganic compounds are sometimes are volatile also. However, their volatility is sometimes is not a much more comparable with that of organic compounds. So in a very general sense, we can, as I am discriminating the organic and inorganic molecules among, so in while discussing this volatility feature, generally the organic compounds are volatile in nature. However, the inorganic ones are comparatively less volatile or somehow they are non-volatile in nature. Now, flammability. Flammability, if again we have explored them to, if this particular parameter is used to explore the differentiation, or it is used for discriminating an organic and inorganic molecule, generally the organic molecules are flammable and they are easy to catch fire compared to the inorganic molecules. Then state of their existence. Accordingly, as per this particular feature, uh, mostly the organic compounds have their state of existence as solid. They can also be exist as liquid, and they are also be present as gas. So all these states, that is the solid, liquid, and gas, and organic compounds can easily be get exist. However, in case of inorganic molecules, usually an inorganic molecules exist in solid form. The next one is the solubility parameter, and as you can see, uh, that mostly the organic compounds are dissolved in non-polar solvent due to their hydrophobic characteristic, and inorganic compounds are generally presents gets dissolved in the polar organic solvents due to their the polar characteristic. The one thing which I have to mention here while describing the solubility, although there are various parameters which affects the solubility of organic compounds in both polar as well as in non-polar solvent. However, uh, whatever the thing I have mentioned here, it is a very broad in sense. And as you can see here, I do have mentioned that solubility of organic compounds are comparatively more in non-polar solvent, and it is comparatively less in the polar solvent. And when we compare the same thing with the inorganic molecule, and inorganic molecule is easily get dissolved in the polar solvent. So there are various parameters which affect the solubility of these organic compounds in the non-polar solvent as well as in the polar solvent. However, the one of the main characteristic feature, or the main thing which ultimately impart the hydrophobicity to the organic compounds is the carbon chain. And when I conceptualize this particular thing here, any organic molecule, if it's contain more and more number of carbon atoms, or more and more carbon atoms present in its structural platform, or a molecule containing a large number of carbon atoms, so the hydrophobicity is directly proportional to the number of carbon atoms that particular organic molecule is having, and it is directly proportional to the solubility of its in non-polar solvent. So any organic molecule, if it contains large number of carbon atoms, that particular molecule is comparatively gets more dissolved in the non-polar solvent compared to the polar solvent. However, under the same time, if the polarity of that molecule is get increases due to the addition of some certain polar functionalities, and this addition of polar functionality, if is able to balance the hydrophobicity, that particular molecule, the organic molecule, is well able to be get dissolved in the polar solvent. So this I also here just discuss just for a purpose of knowledge. However, in a very broad sense, mostly the organic compounds are dissolved in non-polar solvent, and the inorganic compounds are will get dissolved in the polar solvent. Now, conductivity generally, uh, the conductivity which I have measured here, or which I have mentioned here, that organic compounds have a poor conductivity, and the inorganic one is having a good conductivity. So this conductivity parameter is described in terms of aqueous solvent. So whenever we dissolve an organic compound or inorganic compound in an aqueous solvent, and then we are able to try to pass any electricity, we will ultimately find out that organic compounds are having a poor conductivity as compared to the inorganic compounds, and the inorganic compounds generally have a better conductivity parameter as compared to the organic compound. So the next thing which I have mentioned here is the boiling point, and I also mentioned in the boiling point some star is right there. and generally the boiling point of organic compounds are low. However, the inorganic compounds are high, and simultaneously, as you can see, I have also mentioned a feature that melting point. So the organic compounds are having a low melting point compared to the uh, inorganic compounds, and inorganic compounds having a high melting point. Now there are some exceptional cases are also exist where the boiling point and the melting point of inorganic compounds are higher as compared to the organic compound. So in a very general sense, I have mentioned that the boiling point as well as the melting point of organic compounds is sometimes or it is usually less as compared to the boiling point or the melting point of inorganic compounds. Now, salt formation, generally the inorganic compounds are having a better capacity or a better ability to form the salt as compared to the organic compounds. So, inorganic compounds form salts very easily compared to the organic compounds. Now, bonding pattern, I have just mentioned the prominent bonding pattern in both organic as well as the inorganic compound. However, other bonding patterns do exist wherever applicable. So, however, in a general sense, I have mentioned that the prominent bonding in the organic compound is the covalent. However, the prominent one in the inorganic compound is an ionic. So, these all are the certain parameters, or we can say a feature by which we can discriminate an organic as well as an inorganic molecules among. So we will look into the next slide. This indicates the classification of organic compounds. So this is a very important topic, and classification of organic compound in a very general aspect or from the point of view of chemistry is done on the basis of its structure and its functional group. So whatever the structure or the functional group a molecule is having, in a chemistry point of view, we can able to discriminate the molecule or that particular organic compound either by its structure or by its functional group. Although I have added one more point here, that is the source. So I here classify the organic compounds into three categories, and these three categories are the classification of organic compound on the basis of its source, then classification of organic compound on the basis of its structure, and the classification of organic compound on the basis of functional group. And as I mentioned that from chemistry point of view, organic compounds are well be categorized as well as classified on the basis of structure as well as on the functional group. And if you go through number of books, or if you review more of number of books, you will ultimately find these two particular classification. That is the classification on the basis of structure as well as on the basis of functional group. However, I do have mentioned here a source as a one of the category right here, which ultimately classify the organic compounds accordingly. So we will look into all these three categories one by one. So on the basis of source, an organic compound can be sub-classified as the organic compound which is obtained from the natural resources, organic compound which is obtained by uh, synthesis in the lab, and the organic compound which is obtained by the semi-synthetic procedure. So here you can see the source or the classification of organic compounds on the basis of source. We have here classifying the source accordingly into the three subcategories, and these three subcategories include the first one is the natural resources, the second one is the synthetic resources or the synthesis of organic compound, and the third one is the semi-synthetic resources or semi-synthesis of organic compound. So these all are the three are the sub-classification under the source heading. So so we will look into how the organic compounds ultimately be classified. Then the next category is the structure. So on the basis of structure, an organic compound is classify as acyclic or the open chain organic compounds, and then the organic compounds are then be classified as a cyclic or the closed chain organic compounds. So on the basis of structure, this is a very broad classification, and these sub-classification do have a sub-classification further. We do look into how these acyclic and the open chain organic compounds and the cyclic or the closed chain organic compounds are subsequently be sub-categorized accordingly. Then the next category is the classification of organic compound on the basis of primary functionality it is bearing, and on the basis of the primary functional group the organic compound is having, they are well be categorized as if it is containing the OH functionality or the OH functional group is an alcohol, it's containing NH2 or NH functionality, it is an amine, it's containing RCOR, it is an ester, or likewise if it's containing the ROR functionality, something like this, so it is an ether. So this is also a categorization of organic compounds on the basis of the primary functional group ultimately its core structure is bearing. So let us look into each and every category in detail. So the very first one is the source, and accordingly on the basis of source an organic compound is obtained either from the natural resources, or an organic compounds can be prepared within the lab by some synthetic protocols, and the organic compound can also be synthesized in the lab by some semi-synthetic procedures. So I will discuss each and every aspect in detail. So as you can see here, on the basis of source, the nature of the natural resources, and most of the organic compounds are obtained from the nature. So generally, whatever the organic compounds we are using, or whatever the organic compounds are well known, most of the organic compounds are ultimately be obtained from the nature. And since from the ancient time, the human civilization is ultimately utilizing the organic compounds which are obtained from the natural resources, which we have also discussed earlier. So generally, it is one of the most dominating and important source for obtaining the organic compounds, and generally the organic compounds are well be obtained from the natural resources. Animals and plants are some of the very typical and the prominent example of natural resources from where the organic compounds can be obtained. So the question what arises here, that why we are obtaining the organic compounds right from the natural resources if we are able to synthesize them in the lab, or if we are able to semi-synthesize them in the lab. So why ultimately we are able, or why we are obtaining the organic compounds from the nature? So the reason behind obtaining the organic compounds right from the nature is that it is a very easy task to obtain the organic compounds from the nature rather than synthesizing in the lab. And while synthesizing any compound in the lab, one has to be follow a particular protocol, and a protocol so that a desired product can be obtained. However, the same one can easily, if possible, can easily be extract from the natural resources, either from the animal or from the plants. So it is generally a bit more easier to extract the organic compounds right from the nature than synthesizing in the lab. And if it is possible, or I'm sorry, if it is impossible to obtain a particular set of organic compound or a particular molecule from the nature, then it is fruitful to get it synthesized in the lab. The one of the major problem which exists while obtaining any natural compound or a natural product from the nature, it is easy to extract them. It's too great. It is easy to extract an organic compound from the nature, but it is difficult to get them purified, because whatever the natural extract we are getting, or whatever the extract we are getting, it's contain numerous number of other organic compounds, as well as the one which we are desired. So if it is required that the desired chemical or the desired compound, whatever is obtained, has to be purified, then these all particular processes gets tedious as well as costlier. However, wherever it is applicable that whatever the desired product is can be obtained, is obtained and can be used along with the various additional products which are present, and it can be used or it can be further processed without any problem. In such a case, such extraction is advantageous. However, extraction which further requires the purification is somewhat more tedious and it is a costlier process. So, sugars, then starch, chlorophyll, caffeine, vitamins, particularly the C, and riboflavin, etc., are generally obtained from natural resources. Now, as I said, most organic compounds are obtained from the nature, and also we have discussed some of which is it's important as well as the source. So rather than animal and plant, sometimes the microorganisms are also be a very good source for obtaining the organic compounds. And you have might have gone through certain, or you have might have heard certain kind of where, प्लीज अपना जिसका ये माइक ऑन है काइंडली आप उसको प्लीज ऑफ कर लीजिए प्लीज. जिस भी बच्चे का बेटा माइक ऑन है प्लीज आप उसको ऑफ कर लीजिए प्लीज. थैंक यू. सो as I discussed, animals and plants are the typical good source of organic compounds. However, beside these two sources, microorganisms are also a very good or a key resource for obtaining the organic compounds. And might be you have heard that there are certain biological some biotechnological processes where the microorganisms are ultimately be used to produce the desired organic compounds which can further be consumed as per or consume or use as per the human requirement. Now, how these organic compounds are obtained from the nature? So there is a very specific natural machinery is present in the either in the animal or in a plant or in an organism, which what it does, it ultimately consumes, what it does, it is ultimately consume one organic compound and convert that organic compound into another organic compound which may be its metabolite, and this metabolite is ultimately then used for further desirable purposes. So what I'm ultimately here saying, or what I ultimately want to be get cleared, that whatever the natural machinery which is used by the animal or the plant or the microorganism, what they do, they generally consume on a specific type of organic molecule, and while metabolizing them as per the enzymatic machinery they are having, they are producing certain metabolites, and the metabolites which are producing are itself an organic compound which is somewhat distinct in structural or the chemical feature of the one that natural machinery have used, and the metabolite which is so then formed is then ultimately be used for certain desirable purposes. So generally, whatever the organic compounds we are using from the nature, they are typically, or they are mostly are the metabolites which are so produced by certain natural pathway or the processes. Then I do have discussed all these things that they are easy to extract them rather than to synthesizing in the lab, and also I have also discussed all their its examples. Well, now let us look into the next resource under the sub-classification under the source as the synthetic procedures or the synthetic routes. So organic compounds are also be synthesized in land in the lab itself, and all as we can synthesize nowadays. It is really a difficult uh, earlier to get synthesized each and every type of organic molecule in the lab, but however, due to the advancement in the chemistry, now we are able to synthesize even in the complex molecule. Earlier, the simpler molecules will be synthesized in the lab, and in order to synthesize a complex machinery, it is really a very difficult task to synthesize a very complex molecule in the lab. Now we are well able to synthesize both the simple molecules, we can easily synthesize, no problem. However, now the macromolecules as well as the complex molecules are now also get very easily get synthesized in the lab by following certain synthetic protocols or the procedure. But what is the side effect here is, I have also mentioned only the two prominent side effects. That is, the molecule which are produced in the lab are generally costlier, and producing the molecule in the lab by synthetic protocols are sometimes time consuming process. So I just have mentioned only the two things right here. However, the one major drawback right now which we are facing for synthesizing the organic molecules in the lab is whatever the reagent, catalyst, solvents, purification process, etc. we are using for synthesizing the organic molecules in the lab, they are not only very much hazardous for the human beings, but they are also be harmful for the nature also. So now, whatever the organic molecules are synthesizing in the lab, it is generally preferred, it is usually preferred to, rather than following the traditional protocol or a traditional path for synthesizing a particular or a desirable molecule, if it is possible, rather some non-conventional path can be followed or some novel reaction pathway can be followed, so that whatever or wherever it is possible, we can reduce the use of organic catalyst or the organic solvents which are ultimately further reduces the chemical hazards to the environment and also for the human beings. And wherever it is possible, can we are able to use certain chemicals or the solvents which are be able to recyclable or which are ultimately biodegradable, so that they do not cause any problem to the ecosystem or to the nature. Now, as I mentioned right now, as you can see here, I do have mentioned that whatever the synthetic protocols which we are following, it do requires the reactants as well as the auxiliary reactants and the solvent, which I have earlier also mentioned, that whenever you are going for a synthetic protocol, you have to use certain reactants, then a catalyst, then solvents, and you require all these things in a very proportional manner so that the final outcome is the one which you are desiring. And beside all these things, you do require, while following any synthetic protocol, it cannot be done by any layman. It cannot be done by just having a half knowledge. It has to be proceed with technical hand. It is a technical task. You have to know what ultimately you are doing and how you have to do. So this is also a very important point while synthesizing any organic molecule in the lab. It is a technical task, and it do requires uh, uh, to follow certain protocols and a very technical end. So generally, uh, whatever the synthetic compounds which we are producing, there are n number of synthetic compounds are there. For an example, if I say acetophenone, benzaldehyde, chlorobenzaldehyde, then nitroacetophenone, then benzene, then chlorobenzene. Numerous compounds are there which are well get synthesized in the lab without any problem. But we have to adhere ourselves to a particular procedure or a protocol. So numerous drugs which ultimately we are using are get synthesized in the lab. No problem. Numerous drugs are there, and n number of polymers are there, dyes are there ultimately, which are we will be able to get synthesized in the lab without any problem. Now the third one is the semi-synthetic. So this semi-synthetic resource or the semi-synthetic path which we ultimately used for making the organic compound, it is sometimes also be known as partial synthesis or halfway synthesis. Halfway synthesis. So when we comparing any synthetic protocol or a synthetic procedure to a semi-synthetic procedure, the one point which we have to keep in our mind that while we are following any synthetic procedure, we have to very much peculiar for the, or we have to uh, initiate our reaction from the beginning of the reactant. And however, in case of semi-synthetic procedures or in case of semi-synthetic protocols, here the starting material is not the one which is used to initiate the reaction primarily. However, here the synthetic material is an intermediate. This intermediate is a starting material, and this intermediate is further used to synthesize the desired product. So this is a very key differentiation between the synthetic and a semi-synthetic procedures, which are ultimately be used to prepare or which are used to obtain the organic compounds. In synthetic protocols, we have to prepare, we have to start our reaction right from the beginning of the reactant, which right from the beginning of the reactant, or right from the reactant which is initially has to be consumed, or in whatever the product we are in need. However, in the semi-synthetic protocols or in a semi-synthetic procedure, here the starting material is not the one which ultimately we use to initiate the reaction. However, the starting material is well get obtained, or it is an intermediate which was well produced from other resources, for an example, from natural resources, and that particular thing is then be processed further to obtain the product of desire by following the synthetic protocol or by following the synthesis pathway. Now, this is the reason why this particular protocol is known as semi-synthetic. Semi means it is a semi itself indicates the half, and this is the reason why it is ultimately be known as halfway synthesis or partial synthesis. This is the reason, because we are ultimately making or we are producing a product from the intermediate, not from the beginning of or not from the reactant which ultimately initiate our reaction. So this is the reason why this partial synthesis or the halfway synthesis is important. So generally, what is ultimately the essentiality of this partial synthesis or the synthesis? Whenever you will look into any molecule which was produced or which was obtained by the semi-synthetic procedure, that particular molecule, in a general sense, I'm talking in a general sense, that particular molecule is having a very complex structure. And so to reduce or so to minimize the overall synthetic burden, or so to minimize the overall net number of steps which are ultimately be involved for synthesizing that molecule, we are choosing an intermediate which were well produced from natural resources by certain natural machineries, and that natural and that particular intermediate which was obtained from natural resource by by using certain enzymatic machinery of that particular thing is then be used further to prepare an organic molecule. So as I said that whenever you see the structure of molecules which are obtained from this semi-synthetic procedures, these molecules are generally very complex in the nature, and uh, uh, the example which I here quoted under this particular classification is the antibiotics, for an example, tetracyclines and the doxycycline. These are the examples of certain antibiotics. However, there are numerous examples are there uh, for organic compounds which are obtained from the semi-synthetic protocols. However, I have given only the two examples here, the tetracycline and the doxycycline, which are very well known antibiotics. Besides this, the paclitaxel is also an example of organic moiety which was used for the treatment of cancer. It is also obtained from the semi-synthetic pathway. So let us continue further. Now, this is the classification of organic molecule on the basis of its structure. So, on the basis of structure, the organic molecule is further be categorized as acyclic or open chain organic compounds and cyclic or the closed chain organic compound. So I am just finishing my content right now here. I hope you people are also having the next class. No problem. We will continue with our discussion on classification in our next lecture. So this is all for the today's class. Thank you.